change in the world. So I would like to come Carol Helena, smart device from Colombia. So ma'am, please come.
Well, thank you so much to the Women Economic Forum for inviting me to this special, to talk about this special topic of education. When we start talking about education, it's impossible not to talk about how our system of education hasn't been updated for the last 200 years. So does it make sense for us that we are teaching and learning the same subjects that we used to teach 200 years ago? Well, some facts and data that I would like to share with you today, just to give you an idea of the situation that we have currently. 61 million of jobs have been lost since 2008. What it means that 200 million people is unemployed right now. It means too that we need to create nearly 500 million new jobs to cover this gap. What it means is that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. We have a digital revolution, we have the artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and many other phenomena coming up and substituting all the jobs, right? We have the youth unemployment rate is 3 times higher than the rest of the population. Then approximately the 50% of youth people, when they leave the university, when they graduate, are unemployed. So companies are asking for work experience, right? But they don't have it. They are so young, they don't have the expertise. But something that is worrying, that we must concern, is that our schools, for example, the Business Harvard Review recently published an article in which they said, we are afraid that we are not offering the skills that our students really need. So we are lacking the skills that this fourth industrial revolution requires. Okay, so there's another phenomenon that you may think that is not linked to education, but it is, and is that one person every 40 seconds is committing suicide. Did you know that the second cause of death of women between 15 and 29 years old is suicide, and the third cause for men? Okay, so we found here a lack of purpose too. So what are our students really learning at school? What are our students really learning at a university? So many of our teachers are teaching only for the test because they need to have a good grade to go to a good college and to be someone in life, okay? So our students are used to just grading and testing, but lacking of purpose. This is one of the things that is happening now. When I was finishing my school, I was debating myself between being an engineer or an actress. It was kind of crazy at that time. And my teachers and my parents said, look, okay, you're crazy. You need to decide one subject. Now I realize that I could do both perfectly. And maybe being an actress or studying dramatic arts could help me with speeches, could help me to develop more confidence when presenting to the public or something like that. I don't know. I wonder, my older son, what is he going to decide to study, for example. But I know that he's good at music, at sports, and he's a natural seller. I would love to have a university offering to him a program that could keep all these talents together and make him as a unique person giving some good to the world. Okay, one of the other things that we could talk about here is that our foundational skills are not being taught at school, neither at school nor the university. For example, we have now unlimited access to information, but we are not teaching how our students or young people could use this information to have or to motivate changes in the world. Okay? Soft skills need to be well developed, and we need to enhance all the critical thinking, creativity, that it's curious, but creativity, it's a subject that could be taught to, and all the digital skills. Keeping in mind, of course, that the soft skills are very, very, very important at this time. We are lacking the emotional skills. That's why I told you at the beginning this indicator that was amazing for me, you know, that one person every 40 seconds is committing suicides in the world. It's because we are lacking a purpose and we don't know how to manage our emotions, our life, our purpose. One of the solutions or one of the proposals that we can work on this topic is to foster the individualized education. We have many students in one room. 30 in my country could be 40 students in the first at the school in general. So we need to foster the individualized education. We definitely need to enable more students to go to higher education too. It's a general need in the world. We have countries as Canada that have this, they have this rate in a 59%. I mean 59% of the population can go to the college. I mean, it's a very good indicator. But in the case of Africa, it's only the 7%. So it's a generalized need in the world. There's another thing that we can do, and it's that educator and employer must work together. Here is an example in Brazil. For example, they are the government is working actively with companies in Brazil. They go to the human resources area and they check out how they could be aligned between the needs the employer has and the resources the government is giving to them. Okay? Well, just to give a quick conclusion, it's not about the title anymore. It is nice to say, hey, I am an industrial engineer and MBA, but it's not about the title anymore, definitely. It's about the skills you have, the expertise you develop, okay? The experience you have. So here is when we need to pay urgent attention to reskilling and upskilling. Reskilling all our teams, the people who's working with us, and upskilling in the case we lack of social emotional skills, technical skills, or another kind of principles and skills. Definitely the current system needs to be changed. We need to start teaching different things. The university needs to amplify their offering, of course. It could be nice that a student go to the university and can decide what kind of topics he or she is going to study, okay? It could be one course of arts, another one from business, and it's not necessarily to have like a title, a specific title. You could be you, but you develop any expertise in the field you like, the field you enjoy the most, okay? So both in developing and developed world, we need to work. We all almost have access to one of the precious resources in the world, which is information. So we can work in an urgent way to reskilling, upskilling, and creating a new offering in education. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Our next speaker is Simran Messi, postgraduate student, Texas College from India. So please, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a long day, but I'm grateful to Women Economic Forum for inviting me here. I have a small PPT which just contains pictures, so nothing stressful. But I want to begin with stating how important education is, because I didn't discover E.F. Schumacher's book, Small is Beautiful, Economics as if People Mattered, until my undergrad year at Stephens while studying economics. And I was and I still remain in a search for answers to essential questions on how to reconcile the economic system I know well with the philosophical and spiritual truths I hold dear. How, for example, to reconcile the golden rule with the invisible hand? How can an economic system built on the celebration of individual greed and envy possibly lead to long and societal prosperity? Schumacher's wisdom could not be more relevant at this time when the doomsday clock edges forward. He attempted to apply wisdom to numerous aspects of 21st century, and not only to economics and the environment, but to science, technology, as my last speaker spoke about how we are ushering into the digital era, culture, education, religion, and relations of rich nations to poor nations. He wrote this, and which I personally take to be a deeply apt definition of sustainable development, and education being one of the sustainable development goals. We must study the economics of permanence. Nothing makes economic sense unless its continuance for a long time can be projected without running into absurdities. There can be growth towards a limited objective, but there cannot be an unlimited generalized approach. Imagine a colossal, frosty swarm that does not have an end. With a pathetic endeavor, you raise your head to see the end. However, it's so powerful that no matter how hard you try to struggle, and the swarm swallows you more. Our world is an insatiable and cruel swarm which is fed and expanded by the pain, poverty, starvation, racism, and ignorance. For most of us, utopia is just a fairy tale still being told to small kids not to kill the last source of true innocence. In a world where humans are being categorized by their skin colors, languages, religion, and money, we still hope that one day humanity will change. So why does it have to be like that? Is there really a chance for us to purify from our lurking savagery and ignorance? I think it's so unnecessary and ill-considered to ask that question. Do you know why? It's because we already know the answer, the keystone, which is education. Education should be the water which would put off the ongoing fire. And it should enlighten our minds and hearts. And today in the inaugural address, someone quoted Gandhi. And as a young speaker, I was invited by the Russian embassy to speak on an international conference from Tolstoy to Gandhi, an approach towards humanistic education, which Schumacher told us way back in the 1970s. As a young novice educator, I envision an ideal education as a holistic process of growth, as in a person in an interdependent community. It's providing a conducive platform where each individual is given opportunities to develop their innate talents and to use these unique potential to collectively contribute to the good of the world. Especially in a world where wars and hostility are a norm, I strongly contend the importance of developing positive values and virtues among students of both today and tomorrow through education at all levels. Only with good values can the global citizens around the world preserve and value global peace. Only with good that overflows from our hearts can we overcome evil and challenges together. And attending all the sessions today in the morning, listening to wonderful women all around the world having stories of struggle and pain and how they rose from that, I felt like all of us are phoenixes, rising from the ashes. And to strive towards a sustainable education also means providing equal opportunities for all. We are not just facing inequality of income or wealth, we are facing inequality of opportunity across the world. And it's a unifying global education that is blind to race, social status, political ideology, faith, and citizenship. Down the lane, one thing I have realized in this 5 years of being an economic researcher, that everyone is able to do something or the other. Sometimes we just need to enable them to do better and lay a stepping stone for them to tread ahead. And I think Malala described the heart-wrenching situation best when she said, and I quote, "In some parts of the world, students are going to school every day. It's their normal life. You and I, we were privileged to have that. But in other parts of the world, we are starving for education. It's like a precious gift. It's like a diamond." And I feel that this cannot continue. All children deserve to receive the precious gift of education. In fact, we have promised to give it to them. And it's time to deliver. Right now, one girl under 15 is married every 7 seconds without consent. They should be starting a new year of school, not starting a new life of disadvantage which they didn't choose for themselves. I know this sounds a bit bleak, but we have to face up to the fact that we are in the midst of an education crisis, a more so of a learning outcome crisis, and are running well behind on our promise to the world's children. And the challenge is also not getting any easier, because 2 billion jobs will be lost to automation by 2030 or 50, depending on whether you're from the global south or north. And access to quality education will therefore be even more critical to prepare young people from the challenges of a changing world. And if we continue with a glacial pace of action, up to half of the world's 1.6 billion children will still be out of school or failing to learn by 2030. And we would need an extra 50 years to reach our global education sustainable goals. And yet, as we face up to this crisis, we should not be tempted to despair. We can turn things around if we are prepared to step up now. I saw 2 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds talking about education, and I felt like, okay, I'm not the youngest, 23 is no, we need to step up as women together to this challenge. Richard Baldwin, I recently met him at the G20 conference while I was interning with the Ministry of External Affairs, and he released his book, The Robotics Upheaval, Globalization, Robotics, and the Future of Work. And he talked about how changes due to artificial intelligence would create both winners and losers. And it's up to us whether we want to be on the winning side or the losing side. And he also highlighted the theory of comparative advantage in the era of globalization and new protectionism, and how the new digital Cold War is more about virtual space rather than physical space. And I feel that in the long run, the future of work would mean more human and local jobs, leading to a richer and prosperous society only if we manage the challenges of mismatched speed and transition well. The future of work would actually be more local, and for that we need more active labor market policies, especially in the developing countries. And I feel that in the era of digital globalization, humanity is an edge and not a handicap. I would just like to end this with a quote from Lao Tzu, an ancient Chinese philosopher and writer. He said, and most of you must have heard it already, "Give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he will eat for a lifetime." Thank you so much. I hope you. So these are the pictures from the field work I did while I was researching right from undergrad. I was awarded the Arvinder Brar Initiative Scholarship at Stephens for out of 100 plus students to create awareness on water, sanitation and hygiene in schools. Because if you start at an early age, if you educate them at the very beginning, they will grow up to be much more successful. So, and these people, and I also, while doing Masters in Public Policy, I'm graduating in March, but my thesis was on labor economics, where I was looking at informal workers. And this lady, this girl is a young waste picker, but all she said was she's ready to clean other people's waste, which is again an issue in itself in the waste economy. But she said that those two of her children, she is ready to do it till she dies, till her dying breath, because she wants to give them a good life. That she wants them to be educated. And at that moment, I felt infinite, because I felt she is ready to educate her children coming from that background, and I really felt grateful. And I'm really honored to be here and share this with you. Thank you so much. The last slide was it's just that it's not a privilege but a right for everyone, and we should strive hard to make it possible. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, we're done.
Wait.
Thank you so much.
That is
Wait.